Well, I'm not ready now. I mean, oh, hello. Cy Kellett here, host of Catholic Answers Live. Thanks for tuning in and finding us. We're doing a little pre-show several days this week because we've got the big, giant summer fundraiser help us get through the summer slump and well into the fall. As a matter of fact, I don't think we'll be coming on the air to ask anybody for anything until November. So that's usually how it works around here. We can usually fund operations for Hi, Marie. For 3 months. It's more casual, so I figure I can.
I need chocolate.
Oh. We fund basically 3 months at a time. So and there are people here who work on developing large donations and that kind of thing. And it may be that it's sometime in the future we will be in a financial position where we won't be just funding ourselves for the next 3 months, but we are not there yet. As a matter of fact, as Tim Staples has pointed out several times, this apostolate has been around decades. And there's never been a, what did he say, 6-figure or 7-figure donor? I think he says 7-figure. Have we ever had a 6-figure donor? Or?
I don't know that we have.
So,
I think we may have, but certainly no 7-figure.
Yeah. So usually we're funded by the those who are willing to fund us, as we come to ask for your help. So if you're tuning in now and you've been thinking about helping, now would be a good time to do it. This is the last day of this pledge drive. If you're like, well, it just started. Yep, that's how it works around here. We don't do long pledge drives. We just take a few minutes out of each hour. I suppose if you added it all up, it's 20 or 25 minutes out of the hour that we take for 3 days, for 6 hours. And people are so good and generous, people such as yourself, that does it. We're able to fund operations for the next 3 months. So the number to call if you'd like, and I can see a line available right now, and more will be folks here will be coming online in the next few minutes. 888-291-8000. 888-291-8000. Or you got your computer in front of you. I assume maybe it's your phone computer or something, but you've got something in front of you, and you can go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. CatholicAnswersRadio.com. And here in the studio with me is Jimmy Akin, senior apologist here at Catholic Answers, and the guy who tomorrow will post another episode of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty well, thanks. I actually feel pretty good after 2 days. I feel like people have been very, well, it's just really impressive. I mean,
we've been able to make our goals. We weren't able to make them all during the hour that was set aside for them, but overall we were able to.
Yeah.
And we have new goals today, so... first hour at $20,000, another $20,000 challenge. And
the way it gets planned really is that we know that human nature being what it is, and actually both Jimmy and I possess human natures. You do, right, Jimmy? You possess a
humanoid,
nature? Yeah. Humanoid nature. Most people wait till the last minute to do things. And so usually the third day is the day where you count on the best kind of response. The most fruitful response, I guess. And so a lot of pressure goes into the last day. So if you've got a spare prayer you can offer that we have a good third day, or if you got a few dollars to go with that prayer, both are welcome. 888-291-8000 is the number. I'm going to go on Facebook and YouTube, Jimmy, if you want to chat for a minute, and I'll see if anybody's got any questions for you.
Yeah, so you mentioned I've got, as usual on a Friday, another episode of Mysterious World coming out, and tomorrow's is going to be on the Manson family murders. It's the 50th anniversary of those, tonight and tomorrow. And so I'm going to be talking about those. As usual, when we do true crime on Mysterious World, which we do occasionally, not that often, but we do some true crime, we always keep it very clinical. We don't go in to make it gory and scary. We don't do anything like that. It's very top level. But we will be talking about what the evidence says about the big question, which is not who committed those murders, but why.
So is it definitely clear we know who did who the killers were?
Yeah, they've admitted it.
Okay. So
and with the exception of Manson, they all expressed regret afterwards. Many of them became Christians, and a couple of them even became Christian ministers.
People who were involved in the actual murder?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's wild. So, and
The main murderer who did it on Manson's behalf was a guy named Charles Watson,
yeah.
also known as Tex Watson. He's in a prison here in San Diego, and he's a Christian minister now.
Oh,
And and he seems very sincere. I mean, you always have to ask with, the prison conversion, how sincere is this? But I've read one of his books, and he's clearly entered into the Christian way of thinking about things. He's and not in a perfunctory way. He's like aware of church fathers. He's a Protestant, and most Protestants are not aware of the church fathers at all.
Right.
But he is, and he's capable of interacting with the thought of some of the church fathers as it pertains to things that are relevant to him. And so it's clear this isn't just a perfunctory performance. It's something that he's really entered into the Christian worldview.
Well, praise God for that.
Yeah.
Really. So you'll get into the why question.
That's the
tomorrow.
big one.
The big question is, why did they do this? It has to do with Helter Skelter. I remember that. But
Well, that's
do.
that's one of the theories.
Oh, okay.
That's the theory that was popularized by Vincent Bugliosi, who is the assistant district attorney that prosecuted the case. But you have a lot of people who say there was something other than Helter Skelter, or maybe it was something other than that, or maybe that was part of it, but not all of it. One of the things I discuss in the episode is a theory that was by one of the people who went along for the 2 nights of the main murders, a woman named Susan Atkins. She has her own theory that she put together in hindsight.
Oh.
That Manson didn't tell her this at the time, but looking back on it all, she thinks that it was actually something else, and Helter Skelter and a few other things were just dodges that Manson told people to motivate them.
Again, the line, well, at least one line remains open, 888-291-8000, if you'd like to support the work of Catholic Answers and help us be funded for the next 3 months. I want to read you some questions, Jimmy. I'll start with YouTube questions.
Please.
And first of all, I always like these, so I just want to say this. It looks like Skipe. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. God bless from Kosovo, Albanian Catholic.
Oh, nice.
Well, thank you. Very nice to hear from you. Okay, so what's Jimmy drinking? Mountain Dew?
Oh.
That's a question from Jeffrey.
No, it's a Mountain Dew clone, though. It's called Mountain Zevia, and Zevia is a soda that's sweetened with stevia, which is a plant from South America that is sweet but non-caloric. So it's a kind of diet soda, and this one is meant to kind of be like Mountain Dew. So it's like Mountain Dew, but with Zevia. And the reason I have this one is because I like a little bit of caffeine during showtime to keep the energy level up. And so when I want caffeine, I use Mountain Zevia. When I don't want caffeine, I use Orange Zevia.
If there's another question on YouTube, go ahead and post it again, because I have misplaced it. I thought I had 2, but let's go over to Facebook and see what we got for you from Facebook. First of all, our own Thomas here in the studio is just going wild on both Facebook and YouTube. So you're welcome to ignore as prudence dictates. So I'm really confused. It is not 6 p.m. yet, but this is on now. I wish I knew all the different days and times CA comes on during the week. It says live, but it's not 6. That's from Irene. Irene, allow me to explain. Many people get confused about Mondays because, especially our international viewers, often are like, I just woke up and you're on Monday, or it's Monday night and you guys are never on in the night here, wherever these folks are in the world. That's because we do a show for 1 hour on Monday mornings, every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So we just get here, we try to pretend like we're awake, and we do an hour. And then you're seeing us now, Irene, because we sometimes do what we call Catholic Answers More, which is where we just do a little more Catholic Answers, but we just do it before the show. So, and we will be on at 6 your time as well, but then we'll be on the radio. We're not on the radio right now.
Those are the only 2 exceptions. If it normally comes on at 6 your time, that's when it'll come on, unless it's Monday morning when we do a bonus hour, or unless it's 15 minutes early when we do a Catholic Answers More.
All right. So, Irene, thank you very much. Okay. Chris has a question here.
Yeah.
He heard this at Daily Mass today. Get behind me, Satan. That was spoken by Jesus to Peter in Matthew's Gospel. Any clarity you can offer on that, what that means?
Well, yeah, and I think there's a little bit more to Chris's question there. He goes on to say, you may be looking at a different place than me, but he goes on to say that he was heard that this is a reference not to the devil, but to an attorney with the title Satan that often used deceptive methods. And so the answer is that originally the term Satan in Hebrew did refer to a human being. It was a title for basically a prosecutor, like Vincent Bugliosi. And you'd have the term, it literally means like accuser. And so the idea is that in a human court, you'd have someone who accuses someone else of having done something wrong, and that person is the Satan. You also find in the Old Testament the Hebrews imagining God as a king with a court. And so God in the heavenly court has the same kinds of officials that an earthly king would have. For example, at one point we read about Joshua encountering the commander of the Lord's army. Well, a king would have a commander of his army.
Yeah.
And we also read about, how a king will have messengers to go send messages for him.
Right.
Well, that's the word for messenger in Hebrew and Greek is the same as the word for angel. That's what the angels are, is they're the messengers from God's heavenly court. And then kings would have to judge cases, and so they would need prosecutors. And so God had a Satan in his court. And that's what we see Satan doing in the book of Job. He's prosecuting Job, saying he's not really a loyal subject of yours.
I see, yeah. Right.
And so it's true that the word Satan was used for a human figure who was prosecuting, but I see no reason to see that as what it means in Matthew 16, where Jesus says it to Peter. Peter is not accusing Jesus of anything here. And so he's not performing the human function of a Satan.
Prosecutor, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead, he's serving, it looks like Jesus is using the term the way it came to mean after it transitioned to being a reference to the devil, of someone who opposes him. And so Peter is opposing Jesus's plans. And so in that sense, he's functioning like the devil, not like a prosecutor.
Thanks for that question. We also get this one from Jordan on Facebook. Cy, how many blue blouses do you own? Let me just say this very, very clearly, Jordan. 0. I'm trying to stare in a really mean way into the camera. Is it working? 0.
Yeah, lift that lip. It communicates disgust.
One of
the only normal, the only innate human facial feature that's asymmetrical.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
disgust. You raise one corner of your mouth, but not both. Others tend to be symmetrical.
That is wild. The facial expressions that we have, do we learn them because they get a reaction, or do people think they are just even pre-learning? They're just part of our animal nature.
They appear cross-culturally, and thus they seem to be innate to human nature, although there is education regarding how often we use them. So you'll find in some cultures it's considered impolite to express too much emotion. And so there have been studies like showing people from America versus people from Japan, where it's a very polite culture. And if you have an authority figure in the room and you're showing them something disgusting, the Americans will be going, ugh. And the Japanese people will just be sitting there.
Yeah.
And then you take the authority figure out of the room and you show them something disgusting, and both the Americans and the Japanese are both going, ugh.
Oh, so it's a sign of respect to keep the emotions in check.
In some cultures, including ours, it's just different.
Right.
The circumstances are different.
Hey, thanks, everybody. I want to say thanks to Gene, who just pledged almost $50 a month.
Yay.
Thanks very much, Gene. That makes our whole pre-show worth it. Also, getting to snarl at Jordan about not having a blue blouse. Radio show starts in 30 seconds. We'll see you then. Well, hello and welcome. I almost said welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I guess we are. It is welcome back. Maybe you were with us yesterday. I'm Cy Kellett, your host.
And welcome back, Cotter.
And, I don't know if I have to pay if I sing that on the radio, so I'm not going to sing
more
that.
than 10 seconds.
His dreams were his ticket out, though.
Yeah,
that's the important thing to remember about Mr. Cotter. As I said, I'm Cy Kellett, your host, in studio today with Jimmy Akin, senior apologist here at Catholic Answers. Hello, Jimmy Akin.
Howdy, Cy.
Also, it's fundraising time. Yeah. This is the last day of our pledge drive, and people have been very generous in stepping forward, but we got a bit of a ways to go to reach our goal. So we're coming to you one more day, and then we'll leave you alone for months before we ask again. And I'll just say again, as I've said over the last 2 days, the money that we collect that is given to us so generously during these days of the pledge drive is the money we need to continue to do what we do for the next 3 months. That's just how it works. So this will keep the lights on and the microphones on and make it possible for us to continue to make this program. 888-291-8000 is the number to call if you are ready to make your pledge. 888-291-8000. But you got some news about that, Jimmy.
Yeah. So last couple of days, we've had, through the generosity of our donors, $20,000 matching challenges, one challenge per hour. And that's true again this hour. So fortunately, we've had a little trouble on previous days meeting those, but we've been able to. At this time, we have another $20,000 matching challenge. So when you donate, it'll be matched dollar for dollar by the generosity of some very generous donors, and we don't get the money until we match it. So we really need to hear from you this hour. The number is 888-291-8000. Once again, it's 888-291-8000. You can also go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. CatholicAnswersRadio.com is a site that's been set up to be safe and secure online. We've tested it. We have regular checks to make sure it's all working correctly. And it's set up to work with your mobile phone. So if whatever kind of electronic device you have, it's something that you can use to go over to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and make your donation safely and securely online. And that includes after hours, because as you said, Cy, we're only going to be here on the air for a couple of hours, and we're also going to be taking questions during that time. But if you're listening after hours, you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, even though we're not on the air. And if you're in another country and you're unable to call the toll-free number that we have for folks here in North America, then you can also go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com from no matter where you are in the world. So that's an option for everybody, but for those who are here in North America, we need to hear from you. And the number to call is 888-291-8000. Once again, that's 888-291-8000. But Cy, since we're also going to be answering some questions today, what number should people call for that?
If you have a question for Open Forum, and Open Forum means any question at all for Jimmy Akin, whether you're Catholic or not, that number is 888-318-7884. We won't be giving out that number very much because it does cause confusion on fundraising days, and so maybe make a note of it if you are intending to make a call today. 888-318-7884. An easy way to remember it, if these kind of things help you, it's 888-31-TRUTH. 888-31-TRUTH. Again, $20,000 dollar for dollar match this hour. That means a generous donor has given us $20,000 with the proviso that we raise that $20,000 within this hour. If you have never supported, which is in this hour-ish?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. Funds that come in after this hour can also count towards that.
Oh, okay, very good.
But we want to raise it this hour because funds tend to drop off rather precipitously once we're off the air.
Yes.
And not talking about it.
Okay, fair enough then. Again, the number, 888-291-8000 if you're ready to make your pledge, or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Remind you again, before I go to calls, and calls are getting ready now, so we'll do our regular job momentarily here. As a matter of fact, about 60 seconds from now, I promise you I will go
59,
to a call.
58.
Yeah, do that. That's good. I'll just...
Won't be distracting at all.
No, I won't bother anybody. We want anybody who has or who was able to give in any amount, we want to send you that free audio of a talk that our chaplain, Father Hugh Barber, did on how to pray. If you have questions about how to pray, first of all, Father Hugh Barber is... he's
very prayerful.
He's very prayerful. He's a theologian and philosopher. He's been a prior of an abbey for decades, and he will be very helpful to you in your prayer life. So in any amount, any pledge, we're going to send you that audio.
And this is something new. This is something we've just added in this drive. You'll get the free MP3 of his talk. You'll get a link that'll come with your confirmation. So whether you call in or whether you go to the website, you'll get an email confirmation and thank you for your donation. And as part of that thank you, it'll have a link to your free talk on prayer by Father Hugh Barber. In addition, we also have some other free thank yous, don't we?
We do at the $18 per month level. If you're able to pledge $18 per month during this hour of a $20,000 match, first of all, every dollar of that $18 all year is matched immediately for us, and we'll send you 2 books. The Day is Now Far Spent, a critique of the current state of culture and some insights from the Catholic faith about how we can change the direction of our culture. That's by Cardinal Robert Serra, and that's from Ignatius Press. And also we'll send you Villains of the Early Church and How They Made Us Better Christians by Mike Aquilina. If you're able to pledge at the $45 a month level or more, we'll send you all that, but we'll also include the DVD set on Peter from Dr. Tim Gray. It's part of the Lectio series from the Augustine Institute. I think my 60 seconds is up.
Let's take a call then.
Nate in Dallas, Texas, watching on YouTube Live. Our friend Nate, you call every now and then, huh, Nate?
I sure do. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Jimmy, my question for you is about hopeful inclusion. And I was wondering if, as described by von Balthasar, is it a heresy? Because to my knowledge, it is not formally condemned. And as a follow-up, I was also wondering, if it's not a heresy, should all Catholics also hope for such a thing? Especially if Jesus himself hopes that all men are come to repentance.
All right.
Okay.
Do Catholics believe in hopeful inclusion?
So this is not a widely recognized term in theology, but what it refers to is a hypothesis that was proposed by the 20th century theologian Hans Urs von Balthasar, who was notable enough for his theological contributions that he was actually appointed a cardinal because of his theological work by John Paul II, although he actually died just before the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
But that gives you an indication of his caliber as a theologian and the level of respect he commanded. The theory that he proposed is that it's, even though we can't say that no one is in hell, that we may hope that no one is in hell, because God finds a way with everybody to reach them with his grace such that they respond positively and therefore don't go to hell. Now, von Balthasar was clear to say hell is a real possibility through the abuse of human free will.
Okay.
So if you were to say, I don't want anything to do with God, I'm shutting myself off to his grace, and you stayed that way until you died, you would not be saved.
Okay.
But von Balthasar proposed that we may hope that that's not the case in the case of any given individual, that actually, in fact, all individuals do end up choosing to open themselves to God's grace sufficiently that they may be saved. And he just proposed this as a hope, not something we can claim.
Yeah.
So, is it a heresy? Well, in order for something to be a heresy, a couple of conditions have to be met. The first one is the magisterium has to have infallibly defined that something is true. And secondly, the magisterium has to have infallibly defined not only that it's true, but also that it's divinely revealed. And if you look back through the history of the church, you will find magisterial statements dealing with the possibility of hell, and even statements indicating that some people go there. But none of these statements have, to my knowledge, said that it is infallibly true and divinely revealed that some people are in hell. You could argue it's divinely revealed because there are certain statements in Scripture that suggest it, but that's not the same thing as having the church infallibly define that it's divinely revealed. So it's not just it has to be divinely revealed, it has to be defined infallibly as an item of revelation, and that hasn't happened yet. If that had happened, then you wouldn't, I don't think von Balthasar would have been appointed a cardinal because it would be a heresy. And von Balthasar was a very good theologian. He was very careful. I mean, I obviously don't agree with everything he thought, but he was very good and careful in trying to phrase his hypothesis in a way that would not fall afoul of previous infallible definitions. So he was consciously seeking to avoid heresy, and I think he did so. That doesn't mean he's right. And in fact, if you look at other statements, both in Scripture and in the magisterium, it looks like there are, in fact, some people who are in hell. The question is how many? And the best treatment of that question that I'm aware of is one by Cardinal Avery Dulles, where he concluded that it's really hard to, given that some statements in Scripture are more negative and others are more positive, it seems that we don't have a good idea of what the exact ratios are.
Thanks, Nate, very, very much for that call. We're always happy when you call. It is pledge drive, however, and so let me just return to that for a quick minute before I go back to more callers, because we have this little monitor. We can see how many lines are full, and there are more than half of the lines available right now. By the way, when you call to make a pledge, you will be speaking to an employee of Catholic Answers. They've all stopped what they're doing for the afternoon, and they are just taking calls, answering the phone, and getting your information. That also means they're pretty good at it. They've done this before. So if you're in a hurry, and even if you just want to call and say, here's my name and email address, and here's the amount I want to give, we can follow up with you later. But even if you put it on a card, for example, right now, it can be done in a matter of a minute or two. And that number is 888-291-8000. We have a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match right now. So every dollar pledged this hour is matched dollar for dollar by a generous donor up to $20,000.
And we want to say thank you to some folks. We have some people who are offering one-time donations like Carmela and Sean and Stanley and Stephen. Want to thank all of them. Also, people are offering recurring donations, which we really hope you'll do. They include Dunya, who's donating $100 a month. And that is interesting because when you've given $1,000 or more in a year, you get enrolled in a special giving society we have called the President's Club, right, which, among other things, entitles you to receive everything we publish for free in the next year. And so Dunya giving $100 a month in 10 months' time, that's going to put Dunya in the President's Club. And so congratulations on that. Thank you so much, Dunya. We have other people who are able to donate significant amounts, including Christopher, who's made a one-time donation of $500. Also, a few people since yesterday's show, but before today's show, Dwayne was able to donate $1,000. Thomas was also able to donate $1,000. We really appreciate that. In order to meet our $20,000 challenge this hour and close out the drive in a strong way, we are probably going to need some people to make some larger donations. So please be thinking about what you might be able to afford. And as the example of Dunya shows, it doesn't have to be all at once.
No.
If you donate just $84 a month, that's going to add up to more than $1,000. You'll become a member of the President's Club, and we'll be $1,000 closer to reaching our goal of matching the $20,000 matching challenge.
The last hours, as a matter of fact, of the Catholic Answers Live pledge drive. We need your help now to use up all of the match this hour. 888-291-8000 is the number. A little less than half the lines open right now. 888-291-8000. And by the way, the match also counts for any pledge or donation made at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. If you decide to use the CatholicAnswersRadio.com, it's calculated immediately. And say you were able to pledge $45 a month. Well, at the end of the year, 45. Why did I pick 45? Now I have to do math. It's about 500 and something. Okay, so the match for that is given to us immediately by our donor who has given us the match for the hour. So you get the year to make that payment, $45 per month. And I guess
540 total.
540. And the reason I picked 45, I guess, is because that's the level at which we're able to give you all the gifts that we currently have. You'll get the talk from Father Hugh Barber on how to pray. You'll get Cardinal Robert Serra's book, The Day is Now Far Spent. You'll get Mike Aquilina's book, Villains of the Early Church and How They Made Us Better Christians. And you'll get the DVD set from the really wonderful Dr. Tim Gray on Peter. And you'll learn all kinds of things about Peter and some meditations in 10 different DVD sessions on who Peter was, what his encounter with Jesus was, and what his role is in the church. Comes with a study guide. So $45 a month. If you can do that right now, you'll be getting us quite a bit closer to meeting our match, and we'll be able to send you all those things. 888-291-8000 is the number to call. The lines are a little slow, so you can get in. You call right now. You get in immediately. You'll be done in a minute or two. 888-291-8000. Up next with a question for Jimmy is Joe, watching on YouTube Live. Joe, your question for Jimmy Akin.
Howdy, gentlemen. How's it going today?
Very good, Joe.
Awesome. My question was, so I recently came home to the Catholic Church.
Oh, great!
This past Easter Vigil, and so I'm really excited about that. And I want to explain it to my parents, but one of the doctrines that I've been having problems understanding is persona Christi. How is the priest able to act in the person of Christ ahead? In certain things.
That's very clear, Joe. Thank you.
So the phrase in persona Christi, as it just based on the sound of it, you can tell how that sounds like in the person of Christ, and that doesn't make a lot of sense in English, not in contemporary English, because if we talk about one person acting on behalf of another, we don't say you're acting in that person's person.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't say, so if you sent me to the store to fetch something for you, we wouldn't say I was acting in the person of Cy Kellett.
Can I send you to store to fetch stuff for me? I didn't know that.
Well, you can ask.
Oh, okay.
If it's convenient, sure.
Okay, thanks.
So that's really, though, what it means. The person is functioning on behalf of Christ to do something that he's authorized to do on behalf of Christ, such as celebrate Mass or absolve people in confession or things like that. So we don't need to attribute more to this phrase than is actually there. The priest does not somehow become the person of Christ. He's not literally Christ. He's just acting on behalf of Christ. That would be a normal, more normal colloquial English way to say the same thing.
Dwayne, thank you for that call and for the good news that you have come into full communion with Christ and his church. 888-291-8000 is the number for your pledge. If you would like to make a pledge right now, 888-291-8000. Again, we have a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match.
And we've got lines open for you.
And everybody who makes a pledge in any amount, really, we mean this, a pledge in any amount, we really want to send you Father Hugh Barber's talk, How to Pray. 888-291-8000. Shall we go to Jason in Rochester, New York, listening on the Station of the Cross? Jason, you are up. Your question for Jimmy, please.
Hi.
Howdy.
Hey, how you doing?
Just fine.
My question is, I've been listening to Dr. Scott Hahn recently, and he's talking about the idea of typology and how Catholics read the Bible. And I can see the parallels, but he points to Hebrews 8:5 as the explanation of, or the reason why we use typology. And I guess I don't see it, and I would love if you could explain it to me.
Okay, so let's start by, for people who may not be familiar with what typology is, it's also distinct from another field you may have heard of, which is topology. Topology is like the study of shapes and stuff.
Yeah.
Typology is a way of looking at Scripture that sees reflections from one part of Scripture in another part of Scripture. And the terminology that has been used for this is you have a type and then an antitype, from the Greek word tupos. And so in the Old Testament, Moses says that one day God's going to send a prophet like me. Not just a prophet, but one like me. And that was understood by Christians as, oh, well, the only prophet comparable to Moses is Jesus.
Yeah.
So Moses in this would be the type or a type of Jesus. Jesus is the antitype of Moses. So they correspond to each other in a similar way in their own ages. They're both the great lawgiver and revealer of God in their own ages. Of course, Jesus is superior to Moses, and that's often the case. The antitype is often greater than the type that kind of foreshadows it.
Okay.
So that's what typology is. In terms of, I haven't heard what Scott said about Hebrews 8:5, so I can't really comment directly on that. What Hebrews 8:5 though says is that it's talking about Christ's priesthood and the earthly tabernacle and tent of meeting and the temple that replaced them here on earth. And it says that they serve as a copy and shadow of the heavenly sanctuary. For when Moses was about to erect the tent, that's the tabernacle, he was instructed by God, saying, "See that you make everything according to the pattern which was shown you on the mountain." And I wouldn't say that this verse is why Christians practice typology. And I don't know that Scott said that, but I wouldn't say that. I think this is an example of a verse that involves typological principles. Depending on how you want to look at it, you could say the original of the heavenly sanctuary that God has in heaven is the type that Moses then made a copy of on earth, so it echoes what's up in heaven. Or you could look at it another way and say, since the antitype tends to be greater, you could say Moses had the type and the heavenly sanctuary is the antitype that the earthly type points towards. Whichever way you go, there is a kind of typological principle here. I would, though, think there are other examples that are perhaps clearer, because this is something that you don't really need Hebrews for. You could deduce this from just Old Testament texts. So typology and this kind of heavenly earthly parallel was already there in the Old Testament. I would point to other texts in the New Testament that illustrate typology, like where St. Paul in Galatians says that Hagar and Sarah, Abraham's two wives, correspond to two different covenants, to the Mosaic covenant and the Christian covenant. And that's a clear case of typology where they're not literally those things, but they, in a certain way, correspond to these two different things that we have and that Paul was dealing with in his own day. Jason, thanks very, very much for the call. I hope that was helpful to you.
I'll tell you what, we need your help right now. We are in the final hours, we're just about into the final 90 minutes almost of our ability to, or of our opportunity to come to you and ask you for your help to help us be funded for the next 3 months.
And the phone lines are wide open right now. We got very few lines that are filled right now. Most of them, by far, like 3/4 of them, are open. We've got people waiting for your calls, and we are going to need to hear from you. We are halfway through this hour. We are not halfway towards our $20,000 matching challenge. So please give us a call. We're going to be going into the break in just a minute, and that means it's a perfect time to call. You're not going to miss anything. You'll have time to call 888-291-8000 and make your donation and be back before we take another question. So this is an outstanding time to call. The number, once again, is 888-291-8000. Once again, it's 888-291-8000. Lines are wide open for you right now.
888-291-8000 is that number, or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Safe and secure online. It's even optimized for your phone. If you use a phone to access that website, you'll get a very easy app there on your phone, CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Again, $20,000 match. It's a great deal of money for us. That funds a great deal, and if we can raise the $20,000 this hour, we get the full $20,000. Lines are beginning to fill up, but there are still at least 4 or 5 lines open, as far as my eyes can tell from this distance. 888-291-8000. Remember, every dollar is matched, dollar for dollar, and any amount pledged, we will send you a free copy of How to Pray, the audio presentation by our chaplain, Father Hugh Barber. 888-291-8000. You can hear that music. That means we're heading into the break. If it's convenient for you during the break, also use the CatholicAnswersRadio.com site to make your pledge, because that just frees up phones for folks who don't have that computer access or aren't near it. Again, they can get you out real quick. They can have it done in under a minute. We can have it done in under 30 seconds. If you just want to give us an amount and an email address, we'll get back in touch with you.
Catholic Answers Live would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners in airing our daily program. Please support the stations and networks that carry us each day, ensuring that we have a platform for broadcasting the show. And please bear in mind that while we don't have to pay for airtime on our affiliate stations, neither do they contribute to the operating costs we incur. It's a great relationship, but it requires that we turn to you, our devoted listeners, for your prayers and financial support to cover our ever-growing expenses. Please call 888-291-8000 right now and help to keep Catholic Answers Live strong. That's 888-291-8000. Or you can donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. What began as a humble 1-hour daily show that was carried by 4 stations has, with the generosity of many fantastic people like you, blossomed into a 2-hour broadcast heard on hundreds of AM and FM stations, the internet, Sirius XM radio, Facebook, YouTube, and via podcast. We don't make that possible. You do. We simply cannot continue this media mission without your most generous gift today. Call 888-291-8000 or log on to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and donate now. People tell us all the time how much they depend on Catholic Answers Live to help them better learn, live, and share their faith. What they're really saying is they depend on you for that. Will you come through for them right now? It only takes a couple of minutes to make a huge difference at 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Again, 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. No matter how much you give, be assured of our gratitude and know that God will richly bless you. Phone 888-291-8000 or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. It's important that you take this important step right now, today, to make sure that Catholic Answers Live is here tomorrow and for years to come. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. If you just don't understand something about the Catholic faith, Call to Communion is the show for you. Join us Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Jimmy Akin, our guest. 2 hours of open forum. If you have a question about the Catholic faith, If you have a question about Christianity or religion more generally, you are welcome to call. Whether you're Catholic or not, we more than welcome your call. 888-318-7884 is the number for those of you who would like to ask a question of Jimmy. We're going to be giving out another phone number for most of the hour, so make a note of it if you have a question that you would like to ask. 888-318-7884. The reason we give out another number is because we are now in the last 90 minutes of our summer pledge drive. The funds that are pledged to us during the next 90 minutes will complete our fundraising for the next 3 months on air, and that means we will live on those funds producing this show. And we need your help because we have a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match this hour. 888-291-8000 is that number. If you'd like to help us use up that match, 888-291-8000, or you can go safe and secure online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
And Cy, we're a little more than halfway through this hour, and we are just under halfway to meeting this challenge. So we're a little behind, but not by very much. And if we keep things going strong for the rest of this half hour, we'll be able to make that $20,000 matching challenge. We do need to hear from you. Some people have been able to make some larger donations that have helped us get to the point we're at. Sharon was able to donate $1,000. Margaret was able to do the same. Benjamin was able to donate more than $500. All of that helps us get towards the goal, as does every gift of every size. But want to say special thank you to people who are able to be especially generous. If you're able to donate $1,000 or more, as we mentioned, you become part of the President's Club, and that'll entitle you to receive everything we publish over the following year. The number to call while we're doing the rest of our work this hour is 888-291-8000. Once again, it is 888-291-8000, or you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
888-291-8000, that number. We're going to keep doing our job, however, and so we go back to the other phones, and I have lost my caller. I'll find out. Sorry about that. Kathleen in Illinois, you are up next. Kathleen is listening on 95.7 FM. Kathleen, your question for Jimmy.
Hello. I was wondering about the creed. You know, in the creed, it says, depending on which version you use, it says Jesus descended to the dead, or he descended into hell. And I was wondering why it says that. One explanation I heard was that even people in hell have an opportunity for salvation, but then I heard that was refuted. So if you could just explain, why does it say he descended into hell?
Yeah, so the term, and this is explained in the Catechism of the Catholic Church if you want to take a look at it there so you can see it with your own eyes, but this is a bit of a misleading translation. In contemporary English, the word hell means the place of the damned, and that's not what the word means in this case. Originally, so English is a language that has a lot of German roots in it. It's a Germanic language, like not only German, but Swedish and Norwegian and Danish and things like that. And in those languages, the word for hell originally just meant the place of the dead. In fact, that was the name of the Norse goddess of the dead, Hela. Oh, so you'll sometimes hear it said as Hela, but it was really just hell.
Thor's sister?
Ish, yeah. Okay. And
I saw the movie.
Okay. Well, see, you can't rely on the movies. Loki and Thor are not actually brothers in Norse mythology.
Oh.
But it was just the place of the dead. And so that's what is being affirmed when we say the creed. It just means Jesus died. He went to the place of the dead. Now, he also did some things while he was there, like he announced that he had now accomplished salvation for the world, and so the righteous dead could go with him to heaven, that the gates of heaven were going to be open now. So Jesus did do things while he was in the place of the dead, but he didn't go specifically to the place of the damned, or if he did, he didn't save them once he got there. They had already definitively rejected him. So you don't get a second chance. As Hebrews 9:27 says, it is appointed for man once to die, and then the judgment. You don't get a second chance after death. You get judgment, either good or bad, depending on whether or not you died in God's friendship. So he did go to the dead. You'll sometimes see it translated that way, but because religious language tends to be conservative, the older translation of descended into hell has kind of stuck with us, the same way that the King Jamesy English in the Lord's Prayer, hallowed be thy name, has stuck with us.
Thank you very, very much for that call. I'm checking the numbers, and we have virtually every line. No, we got three lines open. 3 lines open right now, and they open up bit by bit as we go. So if you call now, if you dial now, you'll get directly to one of the staff members here at Catholic Answers. If you get Imelda, you'll know by her Indian accent, and I say that because I remember the time that someone thought they had reached a call center. So if you get Imelda, say hello. She loves it when people recognize her. 888-291-8000 is that number to call. We have a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match right now. $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match. As we use that up, we get so much closer to being fully funded for the next 3 months. And I will say, the pledges coming in from $5 today up to $1,200 today, and we're grateful for all of them. Every single person who makes a pledge in any amount is getting the free talk from Father Hugh Barber, How to Pray. But I will also add to this, some of those big donors we're going to need by the end of this hour in order to be on track for today. And so if you are a person who has been especially blessed and you can make one of those 1,000, maybe 2,500. For some folks, even 5,000 and 10,000 are not outside of the realm of what they can do in their pledge. If you are one of those people who can do that, we are now approaching the last hour of our drive. We can see where we are as far as being fully funded, and your funds will make an enormous difference right now. 888-291-8000. Let us go back to the phones and do our job. Tammy in Tennessee, you're up next with Jimmy Akin. Tammy, your question.
Yes. I was telling your screener, I was raised my entire life as the Church of Christ religion, and was always left with the impression that if I was not Church of Christ, that I would not be allowed in heaven. And I was not comfortable with that. So I've done a little research, visited a few Catholic churches, and I knew the very moment when I stepped into the place of Sacred Heart that my soul was in the right place.
Praise God. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I need some direction as far as the difference between, I know, the Church of Christ religion as compared to the Catholicism. I just need some guidance on how to approach my family with it, my decision that I'm going to be making, and I just need some help. So if you could help me, I'll hang up and listen, okay?
Okay. Well, I want to say, first of all, that I understand your situation. When I was young, my family went to Church of Christ as well. And people may not, in all parts of the country, be familiar with Church of Christ. It's a Protestant group. It doesn't always identify as Protestant, but it's a Protestant group that is common in like Tennessee and Arkansas and Oklahoma and Texas and places like that. And it does frequently claim that unless you're a member of the Church of Christ, you're not going to heaven. And so that can mean it can be a real source of concern if someone is in the Church of Christ and then starts going to another church because their relatives love them, they want them to be in heaven. Unfortunately, Scripture really doesn't support the idea that you must be in the Church of Christ in particular to go to heaven. In fact, since the Church of Christ movement did not exist prior to the 1800s, when it was an outgrowth of the American Great Awakenings. It's specifically sometimes called the Stone Campbell movement because of the founders of the Church of Christ movement. Well, if you really had to be a member of the Church of Christ to go to heaven, that would mean everyone for the previous 1800 years of church history was damned. And that's not credible. Jesus promised that he would build his church and that the gates of hell would not prevail against it. And so the church has been saving people for 2,000 years. In terms of how to approach relatives, that's something that I had to deal with as well. Because I have had Church of Christ relatives, and I handled it by largely, it depends on the relatives in question. Some relatives I knew would be more open to what I was doing. Others, who were not as close, might be less open to what I was doing. And so for those who really needed to know, because, they're the ones who lived around me and would see what I'm doing in my life, I was up front and said, I'm becoming Catholic. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I love you. I respect you. I respect your views. These are the kinds of things that I would advise Tammy to say to her relatives. I love you. I respect you. And this is what I'm doing, and it's what I believe God has led me to do. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to discuss them with you, but I do not want to argue about this. And okay. And so that's the approach I would take with those who need to know and who would be more open. If someone is less open and doesn't have a need to know, then Tammy could do what I did with some more distant relatives who might have been more closed. I didn't approach them directly. I let them find out through osmosis. And so rather than having a kind of confrontation with them and saying, guess what, I'm becoming Catholic, I let them find out through the family grapevine, and then they could decide if they wanted to approach me to talk to me about it or not. Mm-hmm. And so that way, it left the decision up to them of do they want to talk about it or not. I didn't take that decision away from them by coming to them and just declaring it to them. And so I think both strategies can be appropriate ways to deal with family members, either if they have a need to know or if they're more open. You can be direct about it while stressing your love and firmness in the decision. And if they don't have a need to know or are more closed, you can let them find out and let them decide if they want to approach you about it or not.
And about her interest in coming into the Catholic Church now.
Yeah, so it wasn't clear to me that she needed information about that, but let's assume she does.
Yeah.
The way that people are received typically in most parishes here in America is through a process, you'll hear it called RCIA. That's an acronym. It stands for the Rite of Christian Initiation for Adults. Since you've already been baptized in Church of Christ, you won't need to be baptized again. You would need to get some education in the Catholic faith to help bring you up to speed on what Catholics believe. And then you would receive the sacraments of confirmation and the Eucharist. Frequently, that is done at Easter time. So I would suggest contacting the local parish that you would like to go to and just saying, I want to become Catholic, and tell me how I do that, and they can help you out from there.
Tammy, thank you so much for that very kind of edifying and exciting call. It's wonderful to hear that. I'll make you this offer as well. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's always open forum here. And if more questions come up that you would like some help with, you're more than welcome to call. We would love to take your call. And Marie, our assistant producer, will make a note of Tammy from Tennessee, and we'll make sure we get you on the air if you call with your question, because we want you to come into full communion with Jesus and His church, and to receive all the sacraments. And I guess I always feel like saying this to people. See, you'll find different things at different parishes. Some will be very helpful. Some may be less helpful. Just keep trying. You'll find one that
God's church, so it's worth pursuing.
Amen. It's worth pursuing.
And speaking of things that are worth pursuing, Tammy's call illustrates the effects that Catholic Answers Live has on people's lives and on their souls. This is what it's all about, folks. Saving souls, helping bring people into communion with Christ and His church. That's what we do here. That's what we're all about. And that's why we need your support so we can keep doing it. We've got lots of lines open for you right now. The number to call is 888-291-8000. Once again, it's 888-291-8000, and you can also go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
888-291-8000 is that number, CatholicAnswersRadio.com. How about this? Maybe you've been thinking about making your pledge. We're down now almost to the last hour of this pledge drive. It would be great to fill up the phones now, more than half of them open. And in particular, as we have said several times throughout this pledge drive, monthly recurring gifts are very, very important to us. So maybe we can get some folks on the line who can make that $18 a month monthly recurring gift. If you can make that $18 a recurring gift. It helps us with planning purposes. As you should know, all of it, the whole year of it is counted immediately against the match. And so our donor will match your whole year donation immediately to us. So your $18 right now and then pledged monthly for the next year is worth a great deal to us. And so we're able to offer you a few things. 888-291-8000 is the number. And one thing we can offer you, we're gonna definitely send you the audio How to Pray by our chaplain, Father Hugh Barber, Norbertine priest, former prior of St. Michael's Abbey in Orange County. We'll also send you from the wonderful Cardinal Robert Sarah. If you don't know Cardinal Sarah, he's published 2 books in recent years that were international phenomena, really. And now he says this is his most important book. The Day is Now Far Spent. It's a book about, well, what's happening in our culture worldwide, how we got here, and how we get to a better place. I don't think you'll regret getting that one. We'll also send you Mike Aquilina's book from Emmaus Road Publishing, Villains of the Early Church, and how they made us better Christians. His thesis, and I think it's a very solid one, is that the early church had villains, some who persecuted the church and some who proposed their own version of the truth in contradiction to what the apostles taught that Jesus had said. And all of those things are, while not good in themselves, they brought about a strengthening of the Christian faith so that it would last, and a deepening of the intellectual fervor of the faith because people wanted to be able to explain it. How about it? Can you pledge $18 a month? I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines open right now. Maybe there's 7 folks out there right now who can make that pledge and help us get to our $20,000 match and become our partners in this ministry throughout the next year. 888-291-8000. 888-291-8000. Back to the other phone. Oh, no, I got to take a quick break. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more calls for Jimmy Akin on Open Forum on Catholic Answers Live.
Stay with us for more Catholic Answers Live.
Do you love sharing the gospel and want to learn to be more effective? Join the St. Paul Street Evangelization online School of Evangelization. You will learn to build bridges of trust and make disciples by befriending strangers, proclaiming the gospel, inviting people to the church, and praying with others. We'll ask for a pledge of financial support, but if you are unable to give, we'll give you a membership at no cost. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. It is Open Forum. Jimmy Akin is our guest. Lines are full, so if you were thinking about donating right now, just go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or maybe wait a couple minutes. It's funny, they fill up and they clear out really quick because people get on those lines and off those lines very quickly. So the number again, if you'd like to make your pledge, 888-291-8000, or go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Next up for Jimmy is Francis in Australia, watching on YouTube Live. Francis, Australia is exactly where a whole bunch of us from Catholic Answers are going to be in a few months to do these exciting events.
Including you.
Including me. I will be there. Francis, you there with us? Hello, Francis. No? Did I go?
Hi. Hello.
Oh, hello. I can tell you're in Australia. Hi. I can tell because of your accent.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because of the light speed delay.
No. Francis, your question, please.
My question is regarding the Apostles' Creed. Mm-hmm. What does it mean when we say he will come again to judge the living and the dead, when we are judged when we die?
Okay, so
do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah, makes sense.
The church understands there to be 2 judgments that each individual potentially may experience. The first one occurs at the point of our death, and it's often called the particular judgment. We have an encounter with God through Christ at the time of our death or very shortly after our death, in which case we learn our eternal destiny, but it's not announced to everybody. It's not a big public judgment the way the one at the end of the world will be. And so the one at the end of the world, which also will happen, is called the general judgment. And it's not something that happens to just particular individuals like the particular judgment is. It's something that happens to everybody together. So that's why it's called the general judgment. So there are some differences between the particular judgment and the general judgment. In the case of the particular judgment, it's a particular person who's being judged. In the case of the general judgment, it's everybody in general is being judged. In the case of the particular judgment, we do not have our bodies with us because we've died. In the case of the general judgment, we have our bodies with us because we'll have been resurrected. Also, the particular judgment, because it is just individuals, it tends to be private. It's not announced generally to people in the world. Whereas Jesus tells us that the things we've done will be shouted from the housetops, and that seems to be a reference to what happens at the general judgment, which has more of a public character, so the whole world sees both the justice and the mercy of God. So those are some of the principal differences. In the case of the particular judgment, if you go to heaven, you may need to go to purgatory first to be cleansed, but you'll be glorified in spirit without your body. And then at the general judgment, when you have your body back, God will re-announce the verdict that you're in heaven. It's not like this is going to change. So it'll be re-announced that you died in God's friendship and are with him in heaven. Only now you'll be glorified in soul and body as well. And the flip side for those who closed themselves to God's friendship.
Francis, how's all that for you?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that clarifies it. Thanks so much for that.
Francis, where are you in Australia?
I'm in Melbourne.
Oh, Melbourne. Yeah, some of the Catholic Answers folks will be in Melbourne this October. Maybe look for us. Maybe we'll be able to say hello.
Is that Tim Staples? Is he coming down?
Yeah, Tim's coming down. Yes, and I think actually Tim's the one who's going to be in Melbourne. I don't know if there'll be others with him, but I'm sure Tim is going to Melbourne.
Yeah, I looked into it. I'm hoping to attend.
Well, all right. Thank you very, very much for that call, Francis.
And that shows the worldwide reach of Catholic Answers, how we're helping people all over the globe. I can see we got a bunch of lines open right now, and we're going to, I guess, try to take another call or so before the end of the hour, but we're coming up on the end of the hour. We still have that matching challenge we're trying to meet, so we do need to hear from you. Now's a great time to call with all of those lines that are open, and going into the break is going to be a great time as well, because we'll have a few minutes where we won't be taking callers or otherwise interacting with you, so that'll make a great time to call, but so isn't it right now because we got bunches of lines open. The number to call is 888-291-8000. Once again, that number is 888-291-8000. 888-291-8000, the number. And I got to say, we'll now approach the last hour of our quarterly pledge drive. We won't ask you again for anything for 3 more months. You're always welcome to just call us and, if a little something comes your way, share it. That's fine. But we won't be asking you again for 3 more months. So now all the lines are dedicated. Every line here in this building is dedicated to taking your call at 888-291-8000. I will appeal again before we have to go back to the lines or to the break, depending on which comes up next, to those donors who can make large donations. We have a goal that we set at the beginning of the pledge drive to say this is how much we need to be fully funded. We are going to need a few big donors to step up in order to make that. I feel very confident that in the next hour we can do that. If some of those donors, quite a few people today have stepped up to make what to me are very, very large pledges, $1,000, $1,200, that kind of thing. And I will appeal to those who can make donations of $2,500 maybe. Maybe you can make a $5,000 donation. I will tell you if you can do that, first of all, the person taking the call is going to be thrilled, and we're all going to be thrilled, but you'll really go a long way in helping us be fully funded for the next 3 months. Perhaps you are someone who can do even larger donation in the $10,000 range, something like that. We do have folks who can do that. And we're very, very grateful for it. If you'd like to talk, if you want to make a larger donation, but you want to see the books first, our president, Chris Check, is happy to open them up to you and show them to you. I'd show them to you, but I don't understand them. But he does understand them, and he'd be happy to take your call. Just ask for him, 888-291-8000.
888-291-8000. Working hard now, 1 hour left to get fully funded. You can also go safe and secure online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
And one of the things that we've been talking about a little bit in this drive so far is the biblical basis for giving. You have probably heard, we talked about this yesterday, Cy, you know the verse in Luke's gospel that says, judge not lest you be judged, right? We hear that one all the time, especially by people who have objections to Christian morality. Yes, even though that's not what Jesus meant.
Right.
The next verse, the very next verse says, give. And so this is talking about, charity, money.
Yeah.
Give and it will be given to you, pressed down, a good measure, shaken together, overflowing, poured into your lap. God promises that when you give, he will reward you in a way that exceeds your own generosity. So please give us a call. You have Jesus' promise that one way or another, you're going to be blessed in greater measure because, as Jesus himself said, it is better to give than to receive. Please give us a call, 888-291-8000. Once again, 888-291-8000, or go to Catholic Answers Live, CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Here comes the break. It's a great time to call.
888-291-8000. We'll be right back with another hour of Open Forum with Jimmy Akin right after this.
Catholic Answers Live.
Catholic Answers Live would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners in airing our daily program. Please support the stations and networks that carry us each day, ensuring that we have a platform for broadcasting the show. And please bear in mind that while we do not have to pay for airtime on our affiliate stations, neither do they contribute to the operating costs we incur. It's a great relationship, but it requires that we turn to you, our devoted listeners, for your prayers and financial support to cover our ever-growing expenses. Please call 888-291-8000 right now and help to keep Catholic Answers Live strong. That's 888-291-8000. Or you can donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. What began as a humble 1-hour daily show that was carried by 4 radio stations has, with the generosity of many fantastic people like you, blossomed into a 2-hour broadcast heard on hundreds of AM and FM stations, the internet, Sirius XM radio, Facebook, YouTube, and via podcast. We don't make that possible. You do. We simply cannot continue this media mission without your most generous gift today. Call 888-291-8000 or log on to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and donate now. People tell us all the time how much they depend on Catholic Answers Live to help them better learn, live, and share their faith. What they're really saying is they depend on you for that. Will you come through for them right now? It only takes a couple of minutes to make a huge difference at 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Again, 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. No matter how much you give, be assured of our gratitude and know that God will richly bless you. Phone 888-291-8000 or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. It's important that you take this important step right now, today, to make sure that Catholic Answers Live is here tomorrow and for years to come. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Love and beauty. As a little girl, Dawn Eden Goldstein knew that she wanted those things, that in them somehow she would find God. Over the years as a rock journalist, she moved among some of popular music's best-known artists, straining to capture that transcendent love and beauty in every note and lyric. In Sunday Will Never Be the Same, Dawn recounts her spiritual journey in beautifully wrought detail, mixing powerful accounts of trauma, healing, and epiphany with funny anecdotes from inside the music scene. It is the rare conversion story that delights as it inspires, amuses as it edifies, and ultimately lays before the reader a lived testimony to the transforming grace of Christ. Order your copy of Sunday Will Never Be the Same by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
In his new audio presentation, The Very First Fathers, apologist Jimmy Akin takes you on a tour of the earliest Christian writings outside the New Testament. From the most famous figures and most notable works to those lesser known but no less important, this pivotal time in the development of the early church is revealed in fascinating detail. Jimmy shows how, even in the first century after the resurrection, it was necessary to defend and explain truths that are still under attack today, such as the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and the perpetual virginity of Mary. The Very First Fathers is a compelling look at the dawn of the Christian age and edifying listening for anyone who wants to understand and defend the full truth of Catholicism. Order your copy of The Very First Fathers today by calling 1-888-291-8000, logging on to the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Atheists have a new tactic when it comes to talking about the existence of God. Your arguments in favor of God don't even deserve a reply, they say. Because not only does God not exist, he doesn't even matter. In his new DVD, Why God Still Matters, apologist Carlo Broussard doesn't let them off so easy. He takes apart the premises of those who say God's irrelevant and teaches you what you need to demonstrate why God is just as important. In fact, in today's world, more important than ever. Don't let atheists shut down the argument before it begins. Get your copy of Why God Still Matters by calling 1-888-291-8000, logging on to Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Jimmy Akin still in studio with us for another hour of open forum. If you have a question about the Catholic faith, we'll do everything we can to get you an honest and helpful answer. And that number is 888-318-7884. I'm only going to give it out a couple times during the hour, so make a note of it if you're thinking of calling. 888-318-7884. Hello, Jimmy.
Hi, Cy. So I've got some good news.
Okay.
We made our $20,000 matching challenge last hour.
Where's the sound effects, Nick? Woo! Oh, Nick's
and
clapping.
He's applauding. Got solo clap. Also, more good news, we have another $20,000 matching challenge for this hour. So we need to get to work all over again. But it's our last hour, so this is crunch time. The heat is really on.
Yeah.
We need to go out strong. We need to make this matching challenge. You can help us do that when you call 888-291-8000. Once again, that's 888-291-8000. You can also go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, and you can do that even after this hour is over. So if you're listening on the podcast or watching us on YouTube or Facebook later on, you can still help us out with this radio drive. Just go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. And if you're in another country, say you're in Asia. I know we have listeners in Hong Kong. We have listeners in Indonesia. We have listeners in Australia. We have listeners in Germany, in England. We have listeners all over the world, in Africa. Wherever you are, you can give us, you can contact us at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Even if you only have a cell phone, you can use your cell phone to go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. It's designed to work with your mobile device, whatever it is, and you can support Catholic Answers Live and help keep us here on the air. And to tell us a little bit more about how you can help, here is our president, Christopher Check.
You gentlemen are doing a great job. I'm so grateful to you, and I'm very grateful to everyone who has called over the past 2.5 days here.
Yeah.
1 hour left to go. And been so generous to us. Cy, Jimmy, I want to make a special appeal. I caught the last hour there. I've been on the phones talking to some wonderful people, by the way, and I want to tell you about that. But first, I want to make a special appeal. Cy, you were saying at the very end, there are those people who can write that $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 check. Here at Catholic Answers, we have two major giving societies. We have our President's Club, which is anybody who supports us at the $1,000 or more annual level. So your gifts for the year total $1,000. It can be a one-time gift. It can be whatever that is divided by 12.
84.
Thank you, Jimmy. And so, yes, they didn't hire me for my math skills here. or you can join our Founder Circle, which is anyone who supports us at the $5,000 or more level.
Which would be $417.
That's right. Very good. And just round it up to $420.
Yeah.
But if you go to Catholic.com and hit the donate button, you'll see there's a link there that describes in detail the President's Club and the Founder Circle. And to each of these giving societies attach benefits. For example, if you belong to our President's Club or Founder Circle, you get a free copy of everything the Catholic Answers Press puts out over the course of years. All the books that we do, all the audio that we do, all the video, any product that comes out that you want, you get a free copy of it. If you join our Founder Circle, you get 2 free passes to the annual Founder Circle Weekend, which is an annual meeting that we have with the senior staff of Catholic Answers and our major supporters, where we talk about the strategic plan for Catholic Answers. And we have a great croquet tournament too. But that's a time for us to look to the future and see what's going on in the world, how Catholic Answers can address it, and we take and we value very much the input that we get. So I want to extend a special invitation. If you're in the President's Club, maybe you can upgrade, for a few $1,000s more a year and join our Founder Circle. If you are in neither, maybe join the President's Club, or if you're capable of giving a gift of $5,000 or more, join that Founder Circle, and we will be very, very grateful. It is expensive to run this radio show. And as we were talking about yesterday, when our signal was going all the way to Turkey, right, to reach all these people over all these different media that we operate in now. This show was a radio show. It still is, but originally it was on AM radio or terrestrial radio, right?
Yeah.
But now it is on every possible means of delivery that we can be on. And to provide that, to build the app, to provide the YouTube feed, to provide the Facebook feed, to do the video feed as we do now, all of this costs a considerable amount of money. And we need your support.
It does, and that includes people who are in our higher level giving societies. In fact, I wanted to thank a couple of people who will be joining them. One is Father Joseph. He's donating $100 a month, which over the course of a year will add up to more than $1,000, so he'll be in the President's Club. Thank you, Father Joseph. Also, Don is donating more than $500 a month, so that's more than $6,000 during the course of a year, so that's going to put him in the Founder Circle. Thank you so much for your generosity,
Praise
Don.
God.
888-291-8000 is that number to call, 888-291-8000. Or you can go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. More than half the lines open right now, so you will get right in. No waiting if you dial 888-291-8000.
I'm sorry, Si. I want to remind our listeners, and I hope I don't sound heavy-handed here, everyone who is a confirmed Catholic, right? And this is in the Catechism, and it's in canon law. If you're a confirmed Catholic, you have an obligation to, that's the word, to evangelize, right? Now, not everybody's going to evangelize as well as Cy Kellett or Jimmy Akin does, or Tim Staples or Carlo or Trent, right? But all of, and then, and maybe you don't have a supporting role at Catholic Answers like Nick the engineer, or Marie, assistant producer, or Darren the producer, or the many people in customer service, or the people in marketing and video, and all the people who make this magnificent apostolate run, 40-some employees, right? But everyone is capable of making some kind of a gift, large or small, to Catholic Answers. And anyone who makes a gift today, right, gets that free copy of Father Hugh's lecture, How to Pray. So no matter the size of your gift, you're going to get a free gift from us as a thank you. I've been on the phones, and I'm going to get back to the phones and let you guys get back to work. I took three calls struck me in this last hour. One was from a member of the Syrian Orthodox Church, and he is in Toronto. Syrian Orthodoxy is not available to him there, and by virtue of that absence, right, he is now looking at coming into the Catholic Church in Toronto. And
Wonderful.
So he and I had a conversation about what would need to be done there. And because of contacts that Catholic Answers has with the St. Philip Neri Oratory in Toronto, I'm able to put him directly in touch with a priest who's going to be able to help him. The other two calls that I took, so praise God for that. The other two calls I took were people really who are on a very, very fixed income. And one of them was a disabled vet living in Austin. He told me his Social Security check is $268 a month, right? But he made a gift to us nonetheless. So whatever size check, gift you can make to us, whether it's joining our President's Club or Founder Circle, and we're very grateful for those large gifts, or a gift of any size, as Jimmy said at the end of the last hour, God is going to reward you manyfold in response to that. So please, my folks, please be generous. 888-291-8000, 888-291-8000. We have to meet this match. Please don't let this money stay on the table.
And it's $20,000, dollar for dollar match. If you're able to pledge 5, it's going to be 10 to us immediately. If you're able to pledge 10, it's 20. If you can do 100, it's 200. You know how that goes. For this hour, if we can use up that 20,000 also, we will be in very good shape towards being fully funded for the year. We'll give you, for the rest of the next quarter.
Cy, you said this at the end of the last hour. I'll say this and then I will shut up. Anyone who is looking at making a large gift for Catholic Answers and they want to know more about the apostolate, they want to know more about our finances, they want to talk to me about the strategic plan, send me an email at president@catholic.com and I will get back to you. Or when you call in, 888-291-8000, just say, I'd like Chris Check to give me a call and I will call you back.
888-291-8000. Time to do our regular job. Thank you very much, Chris Check.
God bless you guys.
And let's go to Hunter in Washington, D.C., listening on the Catholic Answers Live app. Hunter, thanks for downloading the app onto your phone. Your question for Jimmy Akin.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for taking my call. First off, I just wanted to thank you guys. I was an atheist for most of my life, went to studied philosophy at a secular liberal university, and came out a Catholic in no small part to the work that you guys do at Catholic Answers.
Thank you.
And so I just, I'm very grateful for you guys and the place that you guys have played in my life. My question for you has to do with, I've been reading works by Bart Ehrman.
Oh, yes.
Specifically How Jesus Became God.
Mm-hmm.
And with a skeptical lens, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a chapter in this book about whether or not Jesus claimed divinity for himself during his lifetime. Of course, Bart Ehrman argues he did not. He cites many arguments for this, but the one that has been giving me the most trouble was what he considers to be false prophecies that Jesus had about eschatology, about the end of times, specifically the ones in which he says things like, this generation will not pass before these things occur, or you will not get to all of the houses of Israel before the Son of Man comes. I know that there is a preterist view that is accepted, but beyond that, I was wondering how are we to interpret that? Because in Ehrman's defense, that can, out of context, look like a failed prophecy of Jesus.
So there are a few texts in the Gospels that are relevant to this, and I've done a careful study of all of them. I think I have a treatment of all of them in my book, A Daily Defense, so you might want to check that out. There are different ways that you can handle this. Now, one of the ways that is sometimes used, and this is especially used by people who are known as futurists, who think that most Bible prophecy and most of the book of Revelation is still to be fulfilled in the future. They will sometimes point out that the word for generation can mean the same thing as race. So it's like this Jewish race is not going to pass out of existence before all these things happen. And that would explain, the passage where Jesus says this generation will not pass away. While it's possible for the Greek word to mean race and not just a contemporaneously existing generation, like when I'm talking about my generation, for example, it seems to me that that's not the preferred explanation. After looking at all of these texts, I think that what you call the preterist explanation is the one that is to be preferred in all of these cases. Preterism is a view that holds that much of Bible prophecy, or even most of the prophecies we find in the New Testament and the book of Revelation, have been fulfilled towards the beginning of Christian history, such as, for example, by AD 70 or within the first few centuries of Christian history. And just to quickly look at some of the texts where Jesus talks in this way, if you look at kind of at the midpoint in the Synoptic Gospels, Jesus says that some are standing here who will not taste death before they see, God's kingdom coming in glory. And so that's indicating some of the people right there, some of the disciples are going to still be alive, and they're going to see God's kingdom coming in glory. So in each case, in each of the 3 synoptic gospels, when Jesus says that, it then goes on to say, and so many days later, the transfiguration happened.
Right.
Where some of the disciples went up with Jesus on a mountain and saw him transfigured in glory. So it seems that just interpreting the evangelists on their own, in each case they have that time connective saying so many days later, this is what happened. So they're reporting the prediction and its fulfillment right then in Jesus' lifetime. Then when you move to what's called the Olivet Discourse, which is where Jesus talks about the destruction of the temple, if you look in Mark and Luke's version, the destruction of the temple and when it's going to happen and what's the sign of it going to be, that's the topic on the table, not the end of the world. It's when is the temple going to be destroyed? And Jesus says it's going to happen within this generation. Well, he's saying this in AD 33, and it happened in AD 70. So that's less than 40 years later. It was within that generation. Now, in Matthew, because Matthew likes to build big discourses where he stitches together things Jesus said at different times in his ministry that are on the same subject. That's how we get the Sermon on the Mount, for example. Well, in Matthew's version of the Olivet Discourse, he's added some parables at the end that deal with the second coming. But the passage about this is going to happen in this generation, that still applies to the temple. You also have an incident where Jesus is talking to the high priest and says something similar about you're going to see the Son of Man coming with glory, and that's a reference, it seems to me, to Jesus' exaltation and the coming in judgment that happens when he judges Jerusalem. One of the things you find when you study the nature of apocalyptic language is it's not always meant to signify a literal cosmic catastrophe. Moses Maimonides, in his Guide for the Perplexed, he was a medieval Jewish scholar. He has a whole section on what apocalyptic language meant. And, you'll have language in the Old Testament where it talks about the stars falling from heaven and stuff. And it's very clear from the context that this doesn't refer to a meteor shower. It refers to God's judgment on a particular kingdom and how its high officials, who are seemingly like the stars of the sky, will fall from their positions. Mm-hmm. So stars are being used as a symbol of high-ranking humans. And when you see this kind of apocalyptic language in the New Testament, even though there is a cosmic catastrophe in our future, you also have this kind of middle judgment where just like God came in judgment on various cities, including Jerusalem in the Old Testament at various times, Jesus is predicting he's going to come in judgment in the same way on Jerusalem in AD 70. And so I would point to those. Like I said, I've got more information about that in A Daily Defense. Also, I wrote a commentary on Mark's Gospel that you can get on Logos Bible software, where I go into the Olivet Discourse in great detail. And just Google Jimmy Akin and some of these things, and you'll come up with more information.
Hunter, thanks very much. Do you think, Hunter, hang on the line. I think we could just send him a copy of Jimmy's book, Daily Defense. I mean, he was just telling us how important Jimmy and the other apologists here had been in him
that would be great.
Coming to the faith. Let's send him that. Okay. Hang on the line there, Hunter, and assistant producer Marie will be with you shortly, and if you'd like it, we'll send you that book. Again, we come back to you again. Now we're approaching the last half hour of our current pledge drive. Things have slowed down a bit this hour as far as our appeal to you and your response to it.
We need to pick it up.
If you haven't given yet, now would be the time to do it, because we have a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match on the line right now. A very generous donor. We've had a real wonderful help from generous donors who are able to make these big donations this pledge drive. They know that the summer is a time where it's hard to raise funds, and so they gave us the money to do it. So the way it works is this donor has said, if you raise the $20,000, I'm going to give you the $20,000. Go out and raise $20,000 this hour, and I'll match it, every bit of it. Any amount anybody gives. If they give $1, if they give $5, if they give $100, if they give $1,000, if they give $5,000, I'll match it. up to $20,000. We're a long way from that right now. And so we need your help. 888-291-8000. We've really been blessed, actually, over the last couple days with calls. I feel like it feels providential, some of these calls that kind of illustrate what Catholic Answers is here for and what this program does around the world. I mean, people calling to say
both yesterday and today we had people calling saying, I want to become Catholic.
Right.
One in a Muslim country, another coming from a Protestant background that's quite, in some cases, opposed.
Right.
In her case, to the Catholic Church.
And Hunter, who just called and said he's an atheist,
who became Catholic through our efforts. And it's our honor to serve, but it's your generosity that makes it possible for those things to happen. If it wasn't for the generosity of our listeners, the signal would not be going out. We would not be reaching those people. So just the calls we've providentially had, I mean, we didn't set these things up. We didn't know they were coming. But the providential calls we've received yesterday and today illustrate the power of your generosity to impact lives and to impact souls. And it does make an eternal difference. Please give us a call. We have lines open for you right now at 888-291-8000. Once again, it's 888-291-8000. And you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
I walked in Christianity for a long time as a Protestant and non-denominational. But when I started listening to Catholic Answers and I hear, people ask those questions that I have asked and we get clarity on it, it makes so much sense to the Christian faith. And I have understanding that I didn't have before to a lot of things.
Wow. That's the kind of thing we hear all the time. And I'm telling you, it's not because we're the greatest people in the world. It's because the Catholic faith is the faith that Jesus Christ handed on to the apostles, and his sheep recognize his voice, but we've got to be there on the airwaves to explain and defend the Catholic faith for those kind of things to happen. They are happening every day. We share that audio with you just because, well, we get the delight of hearing those things. We get the delight of getting the emails or seeing the posts online or someone calling and leaving a message like that. It's extraordinary. Please be part of that. 888-291-8000 is the number. Let's use up this dollar for dollar match. And again, an appeal to those who are especially blessed this hour. We usually wait until we know how we're doing, and to be fully funded for the next 3 months, we're going to need some larger donations. 888-291-8000 is the number to call. 888-291-8000. Back to the lines now, the question lines. Let's go to Ella in Pennsylvania, listening on the Catholic Answers Live app. Ella, your question for Jimmy.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
What's your question?
Oh, wonderful. So I'm calling for my boyfriend who's a Protestant, and he was wondering about the communion of saints, and the saints can hear us all the time. And if so, does that make them omnipresent and omniscient?
Okay, so you actually broke up a little bit there after, so I'll just repeat it.
The question.
Are the saints omnipresent and omniscient?
No, they aren't either one of those things. They do have more information than we do about some things, and we have evidence in the Bible that shows us they're aware of our prayers, because we have number one, our guardian angels are obviously aware of our prayers, because Jesus says that the angels of the little ones always get to see the face of my Father, meaning they have access to the heavenly throne room whenever they need to report what's going on with their charges. So obviously they know what's going on. But even more broadly, we have evidence that the other angels and saints in heaven are aware of our prayer requests, because in the book of Revelation, we see them offering our prayers to God. This is in chapter 5 with the 24 elders who represent the leaders of God's human people in heaven. And then in chapter 8, we have one of the key angels offering incense to God that we're told is mingled with the prayers of the saints. So in both cases, we have heavenly individuals, whether angelic or human, offering the prayers of the saints to God. Now, the way the term saint is used in the New Testament, it's normally a reference to a living Christian. So this is the saints and angels in heaven offering the prayers of the saints on earth to God. That's us. And you could say, well, in the first century, it wasn't common to ask saints and angels in heaven for their intercession. So these would have been prayers to God.
Yeah.
That only makes the point stronger. in that case, they're aware of our prayer requests even when they're directed to God. They're still listening in on that conversation and presenting our prayers to God. So they're willing and able and anxious to become our prayer partners. The question is, how do they get this information? Well, it's a matter of speculation. The church doesn't have a teaching here, but we know they have this information because Scripture shows us they have this information, even though they're not omniscient, they're not omnipresent, they don't know everything, they're not everywhere. The common opinion is that God himself makes them aware of our prayer requests, that God gives a saint whatever information is relevant to that saint. So if the saint would like to know something, God lets them know it. And saints, being loving people, would like to know if someone wants their prayers. And so if someone wants that saint's prayers, God lets that saint know that someone wants their prayers, and then that saint can pray for that person.
Thanks very much for the question. I hope that was helpful to you. It strikes me we're giving away, for those who can make a $45 a month or more pledge during this pledge drive, we're giving away everything that we've that's available. The Father Hugh Barber lecture on how to pray, Cardinal Robert Serra's brand new book, The Day Is Now Far Spent, Mike Aquilina's book on the villains of the early church. But I don't feel like I have talked enough about this DVD set with 10 DVDs from Dr. Tim Gray over at the Augustine Institute. To really understand what Jesus is doing in his ministry, one has to understand Peter. Peter is obviously, in the Gospels, it is clear, and in the Acts of the Apostles, it is clear. Peter is central to what Christ is doing. I don't know how any person could reasonably deny that. Well, he's taken 10 DVDs. It's a 10 DVD set. These are about anywhere from a half hour to an hour long, each of these DVDs, on what does it mean to be an apostle, on Peter learning to walk in trust with Jesus, the primacy that Jesus plays in the life of everything, and then the primacy that Jesus gives, primacy of place that Jesus gives to the church. There's detailed stuff about Peter's rising leadership in the church, and Peter at the passion of Christ, the transforming power of the Holy Spirit in Peter's life, and it goes on, including how Peter ended up in Rome and how Peter ended up dying on the cross in witness to the Lord.
On a cross.
On a cross,
not
yes.
the cross.
Yeah, thank you. Right, dying on a Roman cross as witness to Christ. At a $45 a month pledge, in addition to all the other things, we'd love you to have that DVD set, and we really need your pledge right now to help us use up this $20,000 dollar for dollar match.
As the music indicates, here comes the break. Give us a call, 888-291-8000. It's a great time to call. You won't miss anything. You can also go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
888-291-8000. Right back with more Open Forum.
Will you do us a favor right now? Clear your mind of all other thoughts and reflect for just a moment on how Catholic Answers Live has made a difference in your life. Has our broadcast made your afternoon commute more meaningful? Perhaps you've learned how to explain the faith to family or friends in a more vibrant, convincing way. Something you heard here may have been just the thing you needed to look into joining or returning to the Catholic faith. All of these are serious reasons to be thankful, first and foremost to God, but also to all who have financially made it possible for us to air the show each day. Believe me, our gratitude could not be deeper. And we're coming to you today during our quarterly membership drive, asking you to join the ranks of the great people whose gifts and sacrifices have helped to turn around countless lives over the years, and very possibly helped make an eternal difference for many of them. Think about that for a moment. That's what your prayers and donations to Catholic Answers Live are doing. What a tremendous opportunity is being presented to you right now. Please don't let it pass you by. Call 888-291-8000 or visit CatholicAnswersRadio.com and let one of our fast, friendly customer service team members take your pledge. Large or small, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you call right now. Again, it's 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. We're offering some great appreciation gifts that are sure to deepen your faith life even more. But what's best is you'll have the confidence that when you turn your radio on tomorrow or next week or 12 days from now, we'll be here. boldly and charitably presenting the truth to a world that's searching for precisely that. Your pledge is vital to keeping Catholic Answers live on the air. Will you make the call today to 888-291-8000 or donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com? Thank you so much in advance. God bless you.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. If you just don't understand something about the Catholic faith, Call to Communion is the show for you. Join us Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Catholic Answers Live.
Hey, there it is. Yeah, that's that groovy music. Nice. Everybody rocking out with the air guitars and air drums in here during that. Nick, I like that the groovy music is back on Thursdays. Is that a permanent thing, or are you just not going to tell me? That you're just
Don't
going to
jinx
surprise
it. Don't jinx it.
Oh, yeah,
just assume it's back.
Just assume it's back. All right. If you don't know, we used to do the groovy music every Thursday, and it went away for a little while, but it appears to be back. I don't know. It's in Nick's hands. He's in charge of the sound. If you have called and you haven't gotten through, there's about half the lines open right now. So because the last few minutes were very, very busy. Thanks to everybody who has called. If you pledge in any amount during this hour of the pledge drive, any amount that is pledged, you will get the free, not the free, but you will get the talk from Father Hugh Barber.
It is free.
Well, not if
it's a free gift for a pledge of any amount.
Oh, okay.
There's no set charge for it, so it's free.
Oh, I see. We're just going to, it's gratis.
Yeah, it's a gift.
Yeah. Pledge $1, pledge $5. We'll send it to you. It's
pledge more if you can. And we got lines open for you now, too.
How to Pray by Father Hugh Barber, a pledge of any amount, and it will get us closer to that $20,000. We're not close to raising $20,000 for this hour yet, but hope springs eternal, and often the last half hour, people, as I mentioned, human nature at the beginning of the show today, a lot of us wait to the last minute. If you've been waiting to the last minute, well, it's actually very fortuitous, because you can be a really big help right now. You can get us much, much closer to meeting that match for the hour. 888-291-8000 is the number. As Jimmy said, about half the lines open. 888-291-8000. Please pick up the phone and make that call. If it's convenient for you to use a computer or a cell phone, just go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Everything pledged there also gets matched, and it's eligible for all the other gifts that we've been given to give to you, including if you're able to make that pledge of $18 a month or more. The day is now far spent. A book from Cardinal Robert Sarah from our friends at Ignatius Press, and Villains of the Early Church and How They Made Us Better Christians, a book from Mike Aquilina and our friends at Emmaus Road Publishing. And if you can make a pledge of $18 a month or more, maybe you can do 20, maybe 25, something in that area is comfortable for you or will work for you. Now would be the time to do it, because once again, while we have this match on, say, for example, you pledged $18 a month. Well, it's $216 by the end of the year. And that is given to us immediately by our donor. Our donor just immediately meets your pledge for the year. So you get 12 months to make it, but our donor gets 1 second to match it, and the donor does that up to $20,000 this hour. 888-291-8000. Heading back to the phones very, very shortly.
I think it's actually faster than a second. I think it's like quantum entanglement. It's spooky action at distance. The instant you do it, that instant it's matched.
I like it. I like anything with the word spooky in it. Yeah, spooky action at a distance, which, man, that doesn't, when you hear about spooky action at a distance, doesn't it make you think, we don't know that much about the universe?
Yeah, well,
there's a lot going on that we still have not figured out.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, 888-291-8000. I'll make the appeal again to the larger donors. If you could help us out with a $1, $2, $3, $5,000 gift right now. You have our gratitude, and I'll say it right now. Thank you so much. But also, you'll get us well on our way to making that $20,000 match. 888-291-8000. You want to take some calls, Jimmy?
Let's please.
All right, let's go to Dominic in Washington, D.C., watching on YouTube Live. Dominic, your question for Jimmy Akin.
Hi, Jimmy. How you doing? Just want to, before I ask my question, just want to give a shout out to my dad, who's listening right now. He's one of your biggest fans.
Oh, wow.
Oh, hi, biggest fan, Dad.
Hi,
What's
Dominic's
his first
dad.
name?
His first name is Frank.
Oh, Frank.
Okay. Hi, Frank.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, you've probably heard him speak before. He's asked a lot of questions. Anyhow, to my question, I was wondering if you can liken the Trinity to the states of matter for water, and to expand on this analogy a little bit. I would like to say that you consider water, the molecules H2O, as a singular unit, like the compound of water as a singular unit, and it can come in different forms, which is solid, liquid, and gas.
Right.
And I was wondering if you can liken that to the Holy Trinity, how it's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's all one God, but it's different, like, forms, so to speak, or like different, realities of that God.
Right. So you can liken any two things together to the extent they're similar. So there is a threeness and oneness in this analogy, where you have, if you have a quantity of water, it can't be just a single molecule, because a single molecule can't become ice. Ice is what happens when you have multiple molecules arrayed in a certain way. And there are actually different types of ice. They're not all the same.
Are any of them spooky?
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
But you do have a kind of threeness and oneness here, and so to that extent, the analogy is valid. But the risk whenever you have an analogy is over-interpreting it, pressing it beyond its limits, because while you can analogize two things together to the extent they are the same, you cannot analogize them to the extent that they are different. And the threeness and oneness of the states of a quantity of water are not the same as the threeness and oneness of the persons of the Trinity. For example, when you have a quantity of water, if it's a liquid at one time. It's not simultaneously, that amount of water is not simultaneously solid or gas. If it's a gas, it's not simultaneously a liquid and water. I mean, parts of it might be, but that's a different quantity of water at that point. It's not all one thing. And so water can pass through these different phases, but God does not pass through being the Father or being the Son and then to being the Holy Spirit, the way water passes from being a gas to being a liquid to being a solid as it cools down. So there is a big dissimilarity here. And it's important to be aware of that, because there have been people in history who have made exactly this mistake. They're sometimes called Sabellians, they're sometimes called Patripassians, and they're sometimes called modalists. We won't go into the reasons for the other two names, but they're called modalists because they hold that the three persons of the Trinity aren't really persons. They're modes of functioning or being that a single person moves through. So sometimes the divine person is the Father, sometimes the divine person is the Son, sometimes the divine person is the Holy Spirit, the same way that a quantity of water could sometimes be gas, sometimes be liquid, or sometimes be solid. And that's not the way the Trinity is. God is always all three persons. So as you can use any analogy between two things that you want to the extent they're similar, but we have to be aware of the differences. Also, just a little bonus tidbit, solid, liquid, and gas are not the only states of matter.
Oh, can I guess? It's not really a guess. I think that I know this.
Okay.
Plasma?
Plasma is another one.
Okay. There's more?
Oh, yeah.
Superplasma?
Nope.
Double secrets plasma?
Einstein-Bose condensates.
Oh, well, I didn't want to go with the easy ones.
Okay.
Come on, Jimmy. Einstein-Bose condensates. Everybody knows that one.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Do a hard one next time. Again, it's open forum. Jimmy Akin, our guest. A whole bunch of lines open right now. We're working our way towards being fully funded for the next 3 months. And you are helping us do that. Thank you very, very much. But we are going to need some generous folks to help us close out here. We've had lots of generous folks who got us to this point. I don't feel ashamed at all or sheepish about asking you to support what we do, because I do believe that this is part of an extraordinary movement of Catholics in the media offering an alternative to what the world has offered in the media for decades and decades. It's in the last 20 years that this has exploded, and Catholic Answers has been there every step of the way, doing our part here. And it's your generosity that makes it possible. This is a thing that is done by the entire Catholic community working together. Jimmy read some names earlier. I noticed a priest among them. We have women religious who give and support us. We have laity, married, single, moms, dads, kids, grandmas, grandpas.
Non-Catholics.
Thank you for that, Jimmy. I had forgotten that. But lots and lots of non-Catholics who will say, I'm Lutheran, but listen, we really need the full message of the gospel to get out there. I'm willing to support this. And so if you're maybe a Catholic who hasn't given, maybe you listen on that signal every day. Well, on average, each signal, if you're driving under a radio tower somewhere under its signal and you're getting this program, and you're not giving, well, let me tell you, on average, there's 17 people in your area who are supporting the entire thing. 17 people. If you make it 18, that is a very significant increase in our percentages. Let's get it up to 18, 19, 20. 888-291-8000 is the number to call. We've got a ways to go to be fully funded by the end of this hour. 888-291-8000.
And think about it this way. If you're Catholic and you're listening and you're benefiting from the program and you're not supporting, there are non-Catholics who are. There are non-Catholics who see enough value in the program that they're willing to support it, even though they're not Catholic. And here you are, a Catholic, not helping out. Well, you want to be, you want to do what you should. You want to do what St. Paul says, which is let he who hears the word share all good things with the one who teaches. So if you're being taught God's word here through the agency of Catholic Answers Live, you want to support that work. That's virtue. You want to be a virtuous person. You want to do what you should. So give us a call. The number is 888-291-8000. If it is at all possible for you, please do give us a call, 888-291-8000. We are not yet at our goal for this hour, but we have lines open for you right now, and we still have 20 minutes left in the hour. So we're going to be taking some more calls. We're going to do our part here on the air, answering some more questions, but we need you to do your part by calling 888-291-8000 or by going to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
888-291-8000, that number. Let us go now to Nick in Cincinnati, Ohio, listening on Sacred Heart Radio. Nick, thanks so much for your call. Your question for Jimmy Akin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, what's your question?
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking my call. So, similar to the previous question, but a little bit different, how does the Catholic Church square the teaching of the doctrine of divine simplicity with Trinitarianism? Because I know I've heard some people kind of criticize that before, and obviously I accept both, but I wasn't sure how those two got assimilated.
Okay. So let's talk for just a second about what the doctrine of divine simplicity is for people who may not be familiar. It's a teaching of the Church, and this is an infallible teaching, that God is, I'm going to use a fancy word, ontologically simple. Ontology is the study of what's ultimately real. So to say God is ontologically simple means on the ultimate level of reality, God is simple. And simple in this context means not made of parts. So he's not a composite being that's made of different parts. He's a simple being that has no parts. We, of course, as humans, are composite beings. We are not simple. We have a body, we have a soul, and our body itself is made of many parts. So we are very not simple beings. But God is simple. That's one of his perfections. You couldn't somehow pull God apart into different parts. So he's invulnerable to that kind of thing. So that does raise a question of, well, then how can if God is simple, how can there be three persons? And the obvious inference, it's a little tricky for us to imagine it, but it's the clear inference is, well, persons are not parts. If you, and we can even see that on the natural level. Here in the natural world, we have some beings that are impersonal, you have a being, let's say it's a rock, and it's not a person. Okay, so there's one being there, this is one rock, and there's zero persons. Well, you look at me or you, Nick, we are each one being and we're each one person. But notice that person is not a part of us. You couldn't take the person away from Jimmy Akin and have something else here. You might have a dead body, but at that point, I'm not a complete person because I'm a human person and I don't have my body at that point. So the person is something that pertains to all of me. It's not a part of me that's separable, like, say, my fingernails or my heart are. So in the same way, the three persons of the Trinity are not parts of God, just like Jimmy Akin is not a part of another being that includes other stuff besides the person Jimmy Akin. Now, it's hard for us to understand that because we're not used here in the natural world to seeing tripersonal beings. But just as we can understand that some beings are zero persons, like a stone, some beings are one person, like a human, we can understand logically, therefore, there can be some beings that are more than one person, where you have one being that's three persons, even though those persons are not parts that you could separate off.
Thanks, Nick. I hope that was helpful to you. It is our pledge drive right now. We won't be bothering you again for a few months. We only come to you every 3 months, and just for a few hours during that quarter to ask you for your support. And we have 15 minutes left to the top of the hour on the air for about 13 more, and we need your help.
We do. We are making progress towards our $20,000 matching goal this hour. We are not quite there yet. We do need some more. So please give us a call. We have lines open for you now at 888-291-8000. And don't worry about thinking you're going to have to wait a long time, because we've got the whole staff who's here in the building helping out. I think Monday, we clock this. We have stats that our system gives us because we really want to diminish people's wait times. I think on Monday, it was like the longest wait time was like 11 seconds. Or something.
Man.
And today, it's at the moment, it's even shorter than that, because I can see on our monitor board that we have some lines open. So please give us a call, 888-291-8000. Once again, 888-291-8000. And if you're listening time delayed, either on Facebook or YouTube or podcast, you can always go 24/7 to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. And you can do that no matter where in the world you are and no matter what kind of device you're using, whether it's a computer or a phone or a tablet or whatever it may be.
888-291-8000, that number. We have not raised the $20,000 this hour. This hour we are still short of raising $20,000. I believe we can do it with your help.
We are getting close, but we've only got 15 minutes, so it's crunch time now.
888-291-8000. Lots of folks want to talk to Jimmy with their questions. Let's go to Marion in Nebraska, listening on Spirit Catholic Radio. Marion, your question for Jimmy. Hi, Marion.
Oh, hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Happy to.
I was wondering what the church teaches about a priest refusing communion to someone they thought was not supposed to have it because of the way they were living or what.
Okay. Well, the Code of Canon Law provides that everyone who has been baptized must be given the sacraments unless there's a specific legal reason not to. We have a right as baptized individuals to the sacraments, and there are a variety of reasons that can impede one from being able to receive the sacraments, including the Eucharist. One of them is being in grave, publicly known sin. So if you are someone who, let's say you're not married to someone, but you're living with them outside of marriage, and it's understood that the two of you are living as husband and wife, even though you're not husband and wife, for example, then there is a provision in the Code of Canon Law that authorizes the minister of the Eucharist. You mentioned a priest, but it could be someone other than a priest, like, for example, a deacon. There is a provision in the Code of Canon Law that instructs the minister of the Eucharist not to administer Holy Communion to individuals who are, the phrase is, notorious public sinners. So they're publicly known to be living in some kind of grave sin that they have not repented of. Now, that's a situation that has to be judged very carefully, because there are situations where two people might be living together in a kind of roommate situation, or someone may have repented and gone to confession. But assuming it is known that that's not the case, there are situations where a minister is instructed not to give communion, and that's for two reasons. Really three. One is to prevent, and this is sort of the central one is to prevent the Eucharist from being profaned. Because St. Paul in 1 Corinthians talks about how if you receive communion unworthily, you're guilty of the body and blood of Christ, of having profaned the body and blood of Christ. And so because the body and blood of Christ are sacred, they should not be treated in a profane way, such as being received unworthily. Also, St. Paul warns in 1 Corinthians that if you do profane the body and blood of Christ in this way, there are consequences for you. There can be consequences. He says to the Corinthians, because you've been profaning the body and blood of Christ, many of you are weak and sick, and some sleep, meaning some people have even died because of this. And so it's also for the protection, not just of the Eucharist itself and its sacredness, it's also for the protection of the person who would try to receive it in a state of grave sin. And then it's also for the protection of the community, because since this person's situation is publicly known, it would provide scandal to the community by making the community think, oh, well, maybe it's not so bad to just be living with someone and sleeping with someone outside of marriage, and it doesn't mean you can't go to communion if you're doing that. And that would have a tendency to lead the community into the same sin, and thus give scandal in the proper sense to the community of leading them into sin. So there are reasons why the church maintains this discipline, and it's something that, it's not common to have a priest say, I'm sorry, but no. But it is possible, and there are good reasons for it.
Thanks very, very much for the call. It is open forum today with Jimmy Akin, but it's also the last now, well, we're in the last 7 minutes of our pledge drive. Got a bit of a ways to go, but I have a strong belief that we can do it. If you've been waiting to make your pledge, now would be a great time. 888-291-8000. I think there's about, looks like 9 or 10 phone lines open right now. 888-291-8000. I will tell you this too. In our calculations of how the pledge drive has to go, we include an estimate of those who will listen to the program later, who won't listen to the show live. And I can tell you, if you're listening later, we're still going to need that help to make it to fully funded. So we have kind of two goals. One, what is our hourly goal on air? And then what's the total that we need? And we're a ways away still from that total that we need. I do strongly believe we'll make it, but if you're listening, say, on the podcast later, or you're streaming it from one of the streaming services that you can stream it from, we have counted some of you in. We know that you will generously support us. If you can make a donation at CatholicAnswersRadio.com, please go do that. CatholicAnswersRadio.com. For those of you listening now who would like to dial the phones will stay active until they stop ringing here, so people will still be taking your calls after we go off the air. And right now, a good 6 or 7 lines available. 888-291-8000. 888-291-8000. I do believe that we can do it, but we are a ways from being fully funded. We are still a ways from reaching our full funding goal. And so we need your help, I can tell you, as we come into these last moments of the program. 888-291-8000. Or you can, as I said, if you're listening later, go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
And as we mentioned earlier, there is a biblical basis for everything we've been doing here. St. Paul says in Galatians, if you want to read it, it's in Galatians 6, where he says, let the one who is taught the word of God share all good things with the one who teaches. And in the context, he's talking about donations. He's talking about supporting the preaching of the word of God. And he uses an analogy. He says, if we simply sow to our flesh, then from the flesh we will reap corruption. Meaning, if we spend all our money just on our own pleasures, then we're not going to get an eternal reward for that. We become enslaved to pleasure, and that's just going to produce spiritual corruption and bad stuff in the afterlife. But, he says, if we sow to the Spirit, meaning we spend our money on promoting the activity of the preaching of God's Word, so the Holy Spirit works in people's hearts, then from the Spirit we will reap a harvest of eternal life. So we actually will receive rewards that are eternal for what we do supporting God's work here in this world by giving. And you can do that now by giving a call to 888-291-8000. Once again, it's 888-291-8000, or from anywhere in the world, you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com 24/7. It doesn't matter if you're listening live or after the fact, but we do need to hear from you one way or the other. 888-291-8000, or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
CatholicAnswersRadio.com is the safe and secure place to do it. And I'll say to those of you who are listening later, or if you're listening now and you want to go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, all of that counts against whatever pledges of support we have gotten from people who are matching pledges. But it also means that if you make a pledge of $18 a month, we're going to send you the gifts. If through the weekend, whenever you get to this, if you go online and make that pledge, we'll send you The Day Is Now Far Spent by Cardinal Robert Sarah, along with Villains of the Early Church and How They Made Us Better Christians by Mike Aquilina. Those will come to you at an $18 a month or more pledge. If you are able to do $45 a month or more, we'll send you both of those books, but we'll also send you the 10 DVD set on the life, the ministry, and the meaning of the person of Peter from Tim Gray over at the Augustine Institute. CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
And Si, as you know, that music means we're out of time for this hour. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And this is a great time to call those lines. They're still going to be manned or womaned. And for as long as they ring, the number to call, 888-291-8000. And even afterwards, you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
Thank you so much to everybody who has called. We're really close now. I have a feeling we may well do it, and it's hard to do it in the summer. Thanks for your support. 888-291-8000, or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Together, let's finish this thing.